Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. And Angie, wow, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. As Angie mentioned, I am the principal for Impact HR. We are a full service HR consulting and advisory firm. And as you guys can imagine, this is one of the areas that we've been doing a lot of work to support our clients. Certainly, recruiting challenges right now is top of mind for every employer out there. And I just want to just start out with the caveat that I don't have the magic sauce. I don't have the silver bullet or the magic bullet to share with you. Kind of what is that one key thing that you can do to kind of expand your applicant pool or find those candidates for you. What I'm hoping for this morning is that I can share with you some additional ways to think about your recruiting strategy, some processes, things that you might go back and say, oh, you know what? Let's try this because we haven't tried it before. Maybe it is a good strategy for us just based on the type of individuals that we need to hire. So my hope is that you might be able to walk away with at least one little nugget that you can add or add to your thought process when it comes to your recruiting strategies. So with that, I'm going to just start with kind of where we are today with with the labor pool and the workforce. Some of you may have seen some of these statistics come out over the last couple of days. There were 431,000 jobs that were added in March. But what I want to really share with you is the number of people that are actually entering the workforce. So in March, even though there were 431,000 jobs that were still added, 418,000 workers enter the labor force. And the percentage of adults that are actually looking or they're currently working rose also to 62.4%. And again, the numbers are there for you to take a look at. The interesting part to me is that more than 300,000 women came back into the workplace or is looking for or coming into the labor force in March. So what does all of this information mean to us is that it's a small sign that the labor pool is opening up. Over the last several months, we've had a lot of clients share with us that they are seeing an uptick in terms of the number of applications. They are seeing an uptick in the number of qualified applications. So compared to maybe a year or two ago when they were starting to recruit for these positions or continuing to recruit for positions, they saw very, very little, as I'm sure you guys can all agree to, very little qualified people. But what we're seeing now is that is changing and we are seeing a little bit more activity. So I do feel that this bubble is going to burst. There's a lot of economists out there that are just that are saying that because of COVID, because of pandemic, we're kind of getting to the other side of all of this. People are now saying, okay, I don't need to be home now. My family life is in order. So now it's time for me to go back into the workforce. So again, some good news, I think on the horizon. Are we there yet? No, but I do think that it's going to start moving into the right direction and you'll be able to see it become a little bit more positive. I want to start with kind of, what is the main ingredient here for employers when it comes to your recruiting strategy? And the first thing that we always talk about with our clients is the employer brand. I think a lot of companies spend a lot of money on marketing and sales and really that brand to reach customer base and help from a business development standpoint. Where I see that employers may be falling short is really spending the time and investment on the actual employer brand. And so what does that mean, right? It's how are you coming across externally to your job seekers, right? What is your company image? Excuse me. And it's the image that you want out there in with the workforce that you are a great place to work. And if you are a small business, you know that you're competing with some pretty large ones that may have a really good brand out there. So it's an opportunity for you to just be out sharing information about who you are, what you do, why it's a good place to work and come work for you. Things like sharing information about your employee programs, the work environment, diversity, equity, inclusion, which are becoming really big issues and top of mind for a lot of candidates: your organizational values, your mission, your vision. How do you do that? Obviously, you have your company website. You have an opportunity on your company website with the career page. And I would suspect that most, if not all of you on this call today, probably has a career page on your website. The difference between having a career page and an effective career page is how much content or how much information you have on that career page. We have, and just kind of share it an example, we have a client that has a career page. And unfortunately, on the career page, it was just a listing of all of those jobs that they might have open today, or they just keep open, right? Because they just want a flow of applicants coming in. Unfortunately, as an applicant, that is not very attractive, right? And I can share with you that most job applicants will actually go do research on a company before they even accept an invitation to even start a conversation about an opportunity. And so one of the things that they will go to is your company website, as obviously. And then on the website, they also want to make sure that there is a really good career page that outlines who you are, what your employee workforce, what's the makeup of your workforce. Are there employees that are really giving kudos about being there and working there, about your mission, about your organizational values? So all of these are very, very important to be able to communicate out to those that are saying, okay, I don't know anything about Impact HR. I might have heard the name here and there, but let me go do some research. And then it gives them an opportunity to really get a good understanding about your company. And then more importantly, answers their question: why should I be having a conversation with Impact HR? What is it about Impact HR that's going to attract me to even have that conversation and start that conversation? So I start with this because it is in the HR world. It is it's kind of the start, the basics, as my slide says, of the beginnings of your recruitment strategy. You really do need to focus on your employer brand. So just on that note, I did find some statistics around this. I'm a statistics girl. I love numbers. I think the numbers tell a really big story. And then the task for us is to say, okay, well, knowing what is out there based on these numbers and statistics, it's really to say, okay, how do we develop our strategy so that we're kind of tapping into some of the information that is out there? The first thing that I just wanted to mention, you guys see the numbers right here on the slide. The first thing that I do want to mention is that 80% or 86% of passive candidates evaluate a brand, an employer brand, before applying for a job, as I mentioned. So what does that mean? It's not even just your career page or your website. They're also looking at Glassdoor. Are there any comments from employees out on Glassdoor? Are there things on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, where you have employees that might be sharing some information about the company, whether good or bad? And so it's understanding that it does exist, those things exist out there, and then being able to monitor that so that you can start developing this brand to share your information to these passive candidates. The game now today is about passive candidates, and we'll see a little bit about kind of some statistics around that as well. But it is right now, it is more than just going out, posting a job and waiting for resumes to come in, as you guys all know. It is about who is out there that meet what we're looking for, and can I get access to those individuals? Because in essence, those are what's called your passive candidates. And so the idea around your recruiting strategy is to incorporate those tasks, those tools, those resources that's going to allow you to get in front of what we call passive candidates. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So again, as I mentioned, I'm a statistics girl. I love looking at numbers because it tells me a good story. It tells me what it is that I need to be focused on. How can we help our clients just based on what's happening out there in the marketplace? So, the bullets are there for you to read. I don't want to read every bullet for you, but there's a couple of things that I do want to just kind of highlight. Excuse me. The first is, Your top prospect candidates, they're going to be off the market in an average of 10 days. And what does that mean is that it is a quick process in the recruiting world today. And so if your process does not allow for you to get in front of those candidates, get them in the door, have the conversations, and then make that offer in a short period of time, chances are you are going to actually miss out on that candidate. So just keeping that in mind. The second bullet there is what I mentioned just a few seconds ago about passive job seekers. Passive job seekers account for 73% of all candidates, meaning that, yeah, they might be interested if they have the right call, but they're not actively out there. They're not looking at your Indeed job posting, right? Or your LinkedIn job posting. They're the ones that say, okay, if someone calls me and it sounds interesting enough, I might be willing to have that conversation. So it's a pool of applicants that you want to get in front of, because chances are they're the ones that are going to meet your requirements. They're the ones that are going to have the experience and the skills that you're looking for. But in addition to that, is that they're the ones that you want to get in front of to say, if you're not interested, do you know of others that are similar to your background that we might be able to contact? So it's now utilizing those passive job seekers to increase your talent pool, increase your applicant pool, I should say. The other bullet that I just wanted to mention there is the fourth or fifth bullet about this employment brand, as I just mentioned. 64% of candidates will share negative application experiences, right? So the word's going to get out. So the interviewing process, the whole application process, if it is not a good experience, they will be sharing that information. And 27% of them will actually dissuade others, right? Going back to what I just said about these passive job seekers, if you had the ability to get someone interested enough to come in and talk to you, and it was not a good experience for that individual, those individuals that they know that are in their own little network, in their industry, they could potentially actively dissuade others from applying to your organization, to your company for those job openings. So again, employment brand being very important to be top of mind for all of us. 60% of applicants quit their application process midway because of its length and complexity. So just kind of share with an example, we have another client that their application process was so lengthy and that it was prohibiting people to even finish that application process. And what they were doing was they were actually saying, okay, here's our job posting. Someone reads it and it says, click here. Then it goes to their company website. Then it goes to their career page. On their career page, it says apply now. And then all of a sudden it takes them into an applicant tracking system. So it's the entire process. It just becomes so long that the applicants are saying, okay, wow, this is just taking too long. Let me just go to the next available opportunity that I might be interested in. 60% of people will actually today say, you know what, if I can't do it in the next couple minutes, it's probably not going to be worth my time, which is kind of tied into the third bullet on this slide, which talks about the ability to do their job search on mobile devices and apply on mobile devices. 89% of job seekers consider or use their mobile devices for doing their job searching. So what does that mean to us as employers? Well, we need to make sure that anywhere that we're announcing that we are hiring, anywhere that we have job postings, our career page on our website, they all have to be mobile friendly. So working with your IT department, working with your marketing department, you need to make sure that it is actually good for applicants to see on their mobile device. The other thing about mobile device is that they're not going to scroll, right? They're not going to be looking at something that's going to take them, multiple swipes up to just get to the point of what the job is or what the company is. So again, those types of things that you need to consider as part of your employment branding. And then of course, the last bullet there, job seekers, we all know a lot of them. Here, 55% use social and professional networks as the most useful way to find information about jobs that they might be interested in. And that is industry specific professional networks, social media, as you guys all know. So 55% of job seekers still continue to use their social and professional networks as the most useful way of finding jobs or opportunities that they might be interested in. So what now? Now what? You got all these statistics, all these numbers. So now what? One of the key things that we always stress with our clients is that right now it is an investment. Companies need to invest to make sure that they're getting in front of the right people. But more importantly in today's world is how do we actually diversify our talent or applicant pool? How do we increase our applicant pool with the right types of folks that we're looking for? And looking across the board at all of these strategies that we're going to talk about and not just stick to one or two, because we know that that is not very effective today. So one of the things that I do want to mention is this kind of HR versus recruiter mindset. So small businesses will generally have one person internally that is also wearing that recruitment hat. And depending on how many positions that you're looking for to fill, or depending on the complexity of some of those jobs that you're looking to fill, having HR or having a hiring manager or having an executive take those tasks, the recruiting task, is not going to continue to work. Again, I mentioned that people are on the market for a short period of time, right? We need someone that is constantly focused on sourcing, getting in front of people, getting the message out, screaming from the rooftops that we're hiring and this is what we're hiring for. And if you have HR that's also responsible for some other tasks, you have a hiring manager that's responsible for other tasks, recruitment becomes not 100% of their role, right? And so the investment piece here is maybe taking a look at temporarily looking at contract recruiters, bringing on or identifying someone internally that can really truly be focused on day-to-day recruitment and sourcing of candidates. So again, investment, because now you have to add maybe another resource, but it is a good way to make sure that you're not missing the mark in this really tight market right now, and how quickly people are getting in the labor marketplace and then they're quickly getting out. And so you just need someone that's going to be staying on top of that constantly. You know, the other investments that you may have to consider are, you know, your wages. Are they competitive enough? Are there ways that you can add different incentives to bring people or attract people? It doesn't necessarily have to be jacking up the wages. It could be some other strategies that you can add that might entice someone to be interested in the opportunity. In addition to that, about benefits, right? Wellness benefits. Health and wellness has become one of those areas that is, you know, it's kind of ticking up in terms of what applicants are really looking for. So it's a great opportunity, again, for you to say, okay, how competitive are we with our benefits? Are there things that we could be adding? How does our wellness program look, compare? Or do we have a wellness program? Is that something that we need to be looking at so that we can, again, add that to our employment brand, that we have a commitment to health and wellness for our employees. The other investment, is this work-life balance options. All of you know that right now with the talent, the talent pool out there, majority of people are looking for, the opportunity for remote work, hybrid work, flexible work schedules. And statistically, I just recently read that 86% of people that are looking for work want some type of a remote work-life balance option. 86%. So what does that tell us? It tells us that, okay, we need to now look at some creative ways that we can incorporate some of this. Now, I know that there are some positions in some industries that we might say, there's no way, right? This requires someone on site full-time, there is no way that we can actually provide them to be hybrid or remote. And I get that. And that is a challenge, obviously, that companies have to continue with this job search and look for those candidates that are willing to do that. But when the opportunities exist that you can say, yes, in this particular role, could we potentially make it so that we are meeting the needs of the applicants and candidates that we are looking at or we are interested in. So again, it's the investment of time, resources to really be able to look at that. Another statistic that I just recently found was that 1/3 of companies are saying that they are willing to look at that and make those jobs some type of a hybrid schedule or some type of a remote work schedule opportunity, because they are now expanding their applicant pool, right? So instead of being in our little bubble in this, maybe it's Howard County or Baltimore County or even just Maryland, now they're saying, okay, if we really need to attract people that we need to meet all of our requirements, maybe we need to now expand a little bit more. And now we're saying, okay, if we go to Delaware, if we go to PA, if we go to Virginia, right, or West Virginia, could we potentially make those positions some kind of a hybrid work schedule? Again, knowing that there are jobs that you may not be able to do that, but the challenge here is to think about the opportunities that may exist for some of these openings that you have. The other thing that I do want to mention is investing in technology. So applicant tracking systems, you probably all have heard of that. Well, why does that help improve your recruitment? Because it streamlines everything for you, right? So from the time that you're posting jobs, it feeds you those candidates, it feeds you those applicants, you're tracking those applicants, you're actually moving them through your process a lot quicker because now you have automated that system or automated that process. Applicant tracking systems also allows you to keep a pipeline of applicants, right? So you might have someone that applied for a certain position today. They're now in that database for you. And you now, 3 months from now, have another position that becomes available. You have that pipeline of candidates that say, well, you know what, they didn't have all the requirements for that particular job that they applied for, but now you can use that database of applicants to reach back out to and say, I know you showed interest in our company 3 months ago. I would love to talk to you about another opportunity that just opened up. So one, it allows you to streamline that process. Two, it makes the process much quicker, much more efficient, but it also gives you an applicant pool. It's a pipeline of applicants that you can continue to manage, right, as you have openings. The second technology investment is what's called the candidate matching or sourcing tools out there. Again, may not be an answer for everyone that's on the call today, but these tools exist. And what these tools are, they're like AI tools, artificial intelligence tools. So you can actually have them piggyback on what you're doing today, Indeed, LinkedIn, all of your job postings. And what they would do is they would actually go and do candidate matching for you to say, yep, here out of the 200 resumes that we just got, here's the top 10, right? So again, about efficiency, about that quickness to turn around and get in front of people that are matching your qualifications. And so these tools, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in a second, but certainly some additional investment opportunities there. And then, the old ways, right? The search firms, there's a lot of companies that still use search firms, or companies that may never have used search firms, but now is an opportunity to do so. Again, investment to do it, but it is a powerful tool, a resource if you have a really hard to fill or a position's been open for quite some time and it's now interrupting or disrupting your work and productivity levels and stress levels of your existing employees. A search firm that actually have their own database of candidates that are very industry specific for you can certainly help you expedite that search process and get people in front of you a lot quicker than you trying to go and sourcing people on your own. I'm going to stop there because I think Angie has something to say.
I thought you got first, give you a quick second to keep moving. But I wanted to toss out a couple of questions for you, Kelly, because they're very appropriate for where you are. I'm going to start with the last question that's in our chat, and that is a question I ask you all the time. Are you able to provide some examples for creative incentives or benefits? Because that's one of your bullets. And I know that I've asked you this question so many times. And once you get that, I have one more question to answer, to ask you, but creative benefits.
Yes, sure. Yes, some examples of creative benefits that may be at additional cost, again, investment, right? Additional cost or at low cost or no cost, things that you can actually put in place. I mentioned the wellness benefits, right? Things like, gym memberships. It's tied around employee wellness, EAP, right, which is employee assistance programs, legal resources, right? Are things that is going to provide additional resources for your employees to have a better work-life balance is key, but also things that they know, I don't want to be stressed all the time, right? I need some outlets for me to reach out to, some employee assistance programs, the wellness programs, the gym, at a very simplistic level. Those are some good examples of that. Some other things that are good competitive benefits to look at are short-term disability, long-term disability, long-term care for family members, right? Childcare, family care, student loan repayment options. So again, there are investments, yes. But if you think about it this way, that's what's happening out there in the marketplace today with your competitors. They're looking at adding better competitive benefits so that when they're comparing, the applicants are comparing benefits to benefits, what is it that really attracts me? What are some of the things that I really need in my life today? When I talk about short-term disability, long-term care insurance, those are things that you can actually put in place, what's called supplemental, so that it may be at low cost or no cost to the employer. So there's different ways and options that you can certainly add some of these competitive benefits. So I hope that provided you with some good examples. And I'm more than happy to provide maybe some listings of other competitive benefits or other benefits that might be helpful.
Excellent. And somebody just tossed in Costco membership. So
there we go.
Yeah, that's a great
I didn't even
one.
think about that one. That was great. I just learned something myself.
Yeah, good. And Kelly, one more very quick question, but because it's up here, are you able to, oh, I'm sorry, I lost it. Do you have any tips on finding the right recruiting firm and or hiring the right internal recruiter? So for small business owners, how can we engage with recruiters or the right firm so that we can get the most qualified candidates?
Sure. The number one thing I would tell you about search firms is that you do have to do your research, right? There are a lot of industry specific search firms that deal in construction only, or deal in production environments only, that deal in hospital settings only, or healthcare settings only. And they're all out there. The best way that I have been able to find some good recruiting firms or search firms for some of our clients is doing the homework. I go out, do my Google search, if you will, to see who's in this local vicinity, go to their website, just like an applicant would for you as an employer, potential employer. I'm doing the same, right, as a potential search firm. But the key is to get from those search firms a listing of other clients that they might have worked for, right, or they had success for. Because what you want to also kind of hone in on is, do they only work with large organizations? And so now they only have a database of folks that are kind of in that, the senior leadership roles, or are they really focused on small to mid-sized businesses? And so when you are kind of vetting out these search firms, to ask about, what does your client base look like? What are the size of your clients that you work for? I know you're in the X industry, but what's the size of the clients? Tell me about some of the success stories that you might have had. And as far as internal recruiter, and I do not want to, I don't know what the right is. I don't want to downplay, I guess is the right word, HR professionals. I am an HR professional. We know as HR professionals, HR has a lot to do on a day-to-day basis. And when a small company goes to whoever's wearing that HR hat and saying, you need to go recruit for X job or go recruit for X jobs, that is not going to be an effective strategy, because we know that we can't be recruiting 20% of our time, 30% of our time, even 50% of our time. It has to be 100% of our time focused on recruitment. And so the idea when I say investment, HR versus recruiter, is to look at opportunities to bring in someone or identify someone internally that can wear that 100%, what we call the recruiter or talent acquisition hat. There are companies out there that provide outsourced recruiting or contract recruiting individuals. We actually have that as part of our offerings, as part of our HR services to our clients, where we have someone just solely dedicated and making sure that we have the right systems in place, tools in place, that we are approaching the right sources to source resources to source good candidates, good qualified candidates, vet them. And so this is a full-time job, right, in terms of recruiting. So there are firms out there that do that. They provide contract or temporary recruitment resources for companies. And even though it might be an investment today, but if you have the right recruiter in place and they fill, your 10, 12, whatever, how many jobs that you have, then it's something that you can scale back, right? So now you're starting to bring in people that can help you grow the business. So I don't know, Angie, did that answer the question?
Sorry, I always forget where the dang mute button is. Yes, thank you, thank you. And you don't, yeah, and the chat says, yes, you got it. So thank you, Kelly. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but the questions were so pertinent to where you were. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And I just want to be mindful of the time. All right, great. So let's talk about the actual process. Right. I just shared with you, candidates are on the market for such a short time. It is such a quick turnaround. I have clients that have candidates come in for an interview and they say, I have 2 offers on the table. What can you do for me today? Right. And it is that quick in terms of good qualified people being on the market. Knowing that, we should be looking at what is our recruiting process today? Is it a barrier for us to get these good qualified people in the door, get the offers out in the door a lot quicker? So one of the things that we would recommend is to look at your streamlining or improving your processes. The first thing is your job postings, right? We all go out, we post our jobs on Indeed, we go post it on LinkedIn and, whatever sources that you have to do those job postings. I want to mention that it is not a job description, right? I mentioned a little while ago when I started this with some of those statistics. If it's a long job posting where people are kind of scrolling to even get to what it is that the job is about, you're going to lose interest. And one of the things that we always say to our clients is, it's a marketing ad, right? It is not a job description. So your job posting should be creative and attractive enough for someone to say, let me look into this a little bit more. Oh, I wonder what they got to offer me. So we always talk about the WIFM concept, what's in it for me concept. So when you're putting your job posting together and as you're reading it, if it doesn't appeal to you, it probably is not going to appeal to somebody else that you're trying to attract. So to me, that is number one. It's the job postings. I can't tell you how many times we have seen client job postings out there that it's just a cut and paste of their job description. And that is not going to really attract a lot of people. They're going to things that are talking about, Here's what we got to offer you. Let me tell you about this exciting opportunity. It's got to be very creative. Get your marketing people involved when you're putting your job postings together. Get that creative juice flowing, right? The other thing that you want to look at is streamlining or improving your application process. As I mentioned to you before, we got a large population of people right now are saying, yep, you know what, I can't just click here, 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 and then I've applied. I have to go jump through hoops to even get my application in front of that employer. Probably not where I want to spend my time. So your application process needs to be reviewed. Are you asking people to click several different places for them to even upload their resume? Or do you have them uploading your resume and then all of a sudden another screen opens and they got to now fill out an application, right, on your ATS or your applicant tracking system? It's those things that we don't necessarily think about that might affect your applicant pool, but it certainly does affect your applicant pool. People are not going to be wanting to upload their resume and then have to fill out a job application, online job application, because in reality, everything they just uploaded on their resume is the information that you're looking for in that application. So again, take a look at your application process. And if there are areas for improvement, remove those barriers to get candidates in a lot sooner. The interview process, again, another opportunity for you to be looking at this saying, okay, what is the time from the time that we have someone coming in for an interview, from the time to the time that we just make a decision on them, right? If that process, it takes too long, you've lost that candidate. You know, again, there's companies out there that when it comes to interviewing, they do a phone screen. Well, they do a vetting process. They do a phone screen, you know, with HR or the recruiter. Then the hiring manager does a phone screen. Then they come in to meet with the hiring manager. And then the hiring manager says, yeah, I like this person, you know, now maybe we need to have them come in and meet with HR now. And then they come back in and they meet with, you know, maybe the team or several people from the team. You've now lost that candidate probably 2 steps into that process. So is there an opportunity for you to take a look at your interview process and cut out some of those barriers so that you have ways that if you need more people in that selection process or interview process, can you streamline that internally, right? The other part of this is that candidate experience. Again, if they are going through all these hoops to get in front of you and they're interested in that job or they have interest in you, chances are it becomes a very negative experience. And again, what we talked about before, they will go and say, oh my gosh, this was the worst experience I've ever had, you know, in terms of, you know, my job search or my interviewing process. They've asked me to come back 6 or 7 times. They can't make a decision. It's just a very negative experience for that candidate. So when you're looking at your interview process, think about that experience level for these individuals. And then the same would apply for your selection process, right? You've interviewed them now, you've streamlined your interviewing process, you've interviewed them, but there's no communication with them. It's taken you weeks to make a decision on whether you want to hire that person. And I would guarantee you at that point, you've already lost that candidate. A lot of companies now are actually foregoing or making offers contingent upon reference checks, right? Because in the past, or historically, traditionally, I should say, we would have someone, we like them, oh, we like you, we're considering you as an applicant, can you share some references with us? Now we're waiting for references from them, we're spending days chasing their references. Again, in today's market, that can't happen, right? Candidates want to know, I'm interested, I was here, I enjoyed meeting with everybody, you're going to make an offer, right? And so think about your entire process. And the point being, does your process allow enough to attract the right people? And then getting them through your actual recruiting and selection process. Are there any barriers to getting your candidates in the door in a shorter period of time? So very, very key to think about as far as your overall strategy, right, for recruitment.
Kelly, a really quick question that is very timely. How long do you recommend the entire process to take? Because I was wondering the very same thing, from the time they apply to how you communicate and get to the end, whatever that ending is.
So I personally, I don't think that there is an end to your process, right? Or your strategy.
Good point. Good point.
It is
Okay.
always going to be ongoing. You're going to update it, and you're going to pivot, and you're going to make some changes as necessary to your business and the applicant pools that you're seeing. I can tell you this, that on an average, the newest statistic that we saw is that on an average, it takes about 27 to 30 days for a company to fill a job. So if that is the benchmark, when you say, what is that process? How long should that process take? Um, it's there really shouldn't be an end date, I guess, or a time that you would just say, okay, we're now stopped. We're not going to, we don't need to be looking at this process any longer. It is a continuous process, if that makes sense. Angie, did you find your unmute button?
No, I'm right here. Yes, I was just letting you conclude. Yeah, I think you answered her question exactly. When you get to the end, we do have somebody who wants to know examples of questions to get, giving some concrete examples of interview questions, but we'll save that one for the end.
Okay, great. Yep. So I do want to kind of share with you, and I know the purpose this morning was really kind of giving you some strategies or really resources that that you may or may not be using today. Again, my goal is that if you could walk away this morning with one piece of good information that can help you looking at your overall recruitment strategy, that I think I will feel good about it. But I want to start off with this comment. I don't know, I'm sure you guys all recall that even several years ago, pre-pandemic, it's always been challenging to find good talent, right? And we've always stressed that you need to be looking at your recruitment strategies. You need to be looking at your process. And so I don't think from that perspective, anything has really changed. I think what's changed, as all of you know, is because of the pandemic, how many people have left the organizations because of the effect of the pandemic to their personal lives, to their family. So yes, it's kind of rocketed the recruiting challenges more so than maybe several years ago. But my point here is that we need to be looking at what we did back then, and those things that actually worked for us back then should become part of our strategy today. And so, hence my comment here, the old becomes the new, right? We are all using the online job boards. We should continue using the online job boards because we know that more than half of job applicants use social media. They go and use the job boards. There's a couple of things that I do want to just kind of highlight here that you may or may not have thought of, or maybe you did, several years ago, and now you're saying, not sure if that's going to work anymore. I can tell you that the old does become the new. One is any type of media advertisement. Years ago, a lot of companies would do TV spots or radio spots. What's different today is that, yes, that still goes on, but what's different today is that you have other media options. You have industry-specific podcasts. You have industry-specific channels, social media channels that you can actually do some advertising and really announcing not just your job advertisement, but who you are, that you exist, that employment brand. Several days ago, I was meeting with a gentleman that runs a PR firm, PR and marketing company. And he even said to me that where his business has picked up over the last year or so is the job announcements for companies in industries that he probably hasn't seen that much of in media advertisement, and really around very specific channels. Like, for instance, he was saying that Sirius XM, right? He actually has gone out and actually have done PR and advertising for his clients on very industry specific channels on Sirius XM. And so again, we think about media and we think TV and radio, and yes, still the opportunities exist there. But what becomes the new is the channels in which we can now get in front of people, right? Using that same concept for media advertisement. The other thing that I do want to mention is the employee referral program. We were working with a client a few months ago, and we were looking at their strategies. We're looking at not just recruitment, but entire process of recruitment and onboarding and all of that. And one of the things that we had talked about or brought up was the employee referral program. And the managers all say, oh yeah, we have it. It's a robust program. We just increased it. We adjusted it because we know that we want our employees to be kind of our champions, get out there, bring referrals in. But when we met with employees, no one knew about it, right? Or they said, oh yeah, I think we do have one, but I'm not sure what it is. Was it changed? So the point being here is that if you do have an employee referral program, you need to broadcast it. You need to always make sure that it's the right levels, that you're communicating it, post it, remind your people about it, because most employers might have a policy around it in their employee handbook, might have mentioned it to someone when they were kind of in the beginning stages of their employment, but then that's where it ends. And then employees don't think about it, right? So it's a good opportunity, again, another resource that you can get your employees on board to help to get the message across. We talked about the company website, career site, the career page. Community-based organizations is another great resource. If you have not, or you have in the past, community-based meaning churches, right? Or nonprofit organizations. There's, again, just the professional associations. I bring churches up because when I started in the recruitment business eons ago, one of the things that I used to do was I would actually put postings in the bulletin, the church bulletins in the local churches around the company. And yeah, it's very old school, but again, the old becomes the new, right? People that are going to these churches, they are looking at these bulletins and church bulletins. They are looking at the bulletin boards, right? When you're walking into church. It might be in the Sunday school, right? Or opportunities where there is a board, a public board that make announcements, what's happening in the community for their church members, the parishioners. And so again, just a good additional resource to think about. It's kind of thinking outside the box a little bit today. But I also want to talk a little bit about what's different, or maybe what's new, really. And the whole purpose of your recruitment strategy should be about finding passive job seekers. They're the ones that really, in reality, are the ones that are going to be meeting your requirements. They come with experience, they have industry background, and they might even have skills that they can bring that's going to really enhance that position. So it's, what are the different ways or new ways that we can be tackling these passive job seekers? A couple things I want to mention about social media. We all post our jobs, right? We know Indeed exists, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor, all of these job boards, as we call them. We go out and post our jobs. Again, posting the jobs and then waiting for resumes to come in doesn't work as well today, and especially because they're not in the market that quick. So one of the things that we've seen work very well are some additional resources for you to get in front of these passive job seekers. One is, I'm going to skip the LinkedIn Recruiter for just a second. I'll talk about that as when I'm talking about HireEasy, but Facebook and LinkedIn groups. You've probably get invited to join groups on Facebook and LinkedIn. There are great ways to get connections for people with people that are in your industry. So, right, industry LinkedIn groups, industry Facebook groups. Maybe it's a professional, just overall generic professional LinkedIn group. So give you an example of how that works is that HR professional, I run an HR consulting business. I'm constantly being active on these HR professional LinkedIn groups. And I can tell you, I've made a lot of connections with those several hundred or thousands of people that are in those LinkedIn groups. And when I reach out and say, hey, would love to have a conversation with an HR professional that's looking to do X. The amount, the responses, it allows me to have access to those that I might not have had access because of my active involvement in that group. So again, something to think about when you're looking at social media. A lot of companies now are actually doing their advertisements, their employment branding on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. So again, utilizing social media, because that's where it is today. People are looking on their mobile phones. They might be taking a break and they're Googling something and there's an ad, a YouTube that pops up. It's a great way to, again, getting your message across. And then membership directories and databases, right? So they have, when you go and look at associations, they have databases in some of those, they have directories. Some you may have to pay a small fee for, some may be free, but you won't know until you actually start going out and doing that research to find out what can you get access to, right? In terms of those professional affiliations or professional associations. AI, artificial intelligence for candidate matching. I did mention this a little while ago. So the reason I skipped the LinkedIn Recruiter is because LinkedIn does a really, really good job of doing what's called this artificial intelligence on the back end for candidate matching. Those of you that have invested in LinkedIn Recruiter, but HireEasy, it used to be called Hire Tool, TAUL, but it's called HireEasy. Again, there is a small investment to use this tool. The way we have been using it and has been very effective is that if you don't want to invest in LinkedIn Recruiter, you don't want to invest in any other additional AI candidate sourcing, matching type of resources, HireEasy, what it allows us to do is we can actually use LinkedIn and actually go and find people. Like, we're sourcing people and we're typing in program managers construction, and we get all of these profiles like you guys do, right? You go in and look at these profiles. Then what we use HireEasy allows us to do is actually get their contact information, because what we don't have when we're not using LinkedIn Recruiter or some of these upgrades on some of these job boards is actual access to contact information. So HireEasy allows us to scour. They do artificial intelligence. They're scouring all of the internet and the dark web and finding these individuals and finding their actual contact information. So it may be an email address, it may be email and phone number that allows us to do that. Is it 100% of the time? No, but is it about 85, 90% of the time? Yes. So it's just another tool out there that allows you small investment, but still be able to get in front of people. Because what's going to work today? Does HireEasy work? Does HireEasy works with Monster? I believe so. They do. They would actually, wherever you're putting your job postings, they actually would work with those job boards to take a look at those individuals that might meet their in the databases and things, right? To source those candidate information. So at the end of the day, I know we're a few minutes over. At the end of the day, you would have liked my last slide. At the end of the day, you need to be standing on the top of the roof screaming, "We are hiring," right? But the way to do that is, yes, we are hiring, and you want to be able to share why it is good for people to be talking to you, right? You need to show that employment brand, which, starting with the basics, right? Your employment brand, but more importantly, dedicated time, dedicated resources to source. Get after those passive job seekers, because sitting back and waiting for resumes to come in is not going to be as effective. So 3 minutes over. I apologize again for the technical issues that we had, but if we have more questions, and Angie, like I said, I'm more than happy to, as we're sharing the slides, I can actually add the actual responses to the end of those slides and we can send them out. Oh, you're muted.
Me and mute. It looks like there's only one question remaining, and that is, how do you balance the importance of relevant job experience, education, time at jobs, and other factors in the recruiting process?
If I'm understanding the code, how am I balancing it?
Yes, I'm not sure what this, somebody may want to clarify, but it looks like what is the balance in the importance or value of length of time in a job experience, education.
Okay, great question. If that is what they're asking. In today's world, yes, you have to be thinking about, are we checking all 7 boxes, right? Or are there things that it really are the key pieces, the qualifications that's going to make someone successful in this job? I will tell you, in today's world, length of time in a job probably doesn't carry as much weight as maybe the actual industry experience, right? Or time in having experience in that role. The reason I'm saying that is because, unless of course the reasoning for them having 1 year here or 2 years there or what have you isn't as acceptable. But if it is over the last couple of years, company went out of business, right? Or they had to be downsized, or they right-sized the organization, and they did that over the last 2-3 years, and that's why they were caught up in that. It may be not as much weight to that. I think the real balance of that is really looking at technical skills, cultural fit, right? What can they bring to the table in that role? So I hope that answered that question.
It did, and thank you for the reminder of cultural fit. Sorry. Thank you. I'm taking notes, and it's like, oh, we're supposed to be doing this. All right, Kelly, thank you again to all our guests today. Thank you so much. In the information Susan will be sending you, we'll have the slides. We'll have a link to this recording. In addition, we'll have a link to the rest of our HR series. I believe we have 4 more webinars after this one. So Susan will include that. And we simply just want to thank everybody for your time today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. You're a jewel. Thank you so much.
Great. Have a great day.
All right.